Miracles surround us at every turn, if we but sharpen our perceptions to them.
There are some things you learn best in calm, and some in storm. The heart of another is a dark forest, always, no matter how close it has been to one's own. The world is little, people are little, human life is little. There is only one big thing, desire. Where there is great love, there are always miracles. Whatever we had missed, we possess together the precious, the incommunicable past. Most of the basic material a writer works with is acquired before the age of 15. It's all very well to tell us to forgive our enemies can never hurt us very much. But oh, what about forgiving our friends? People live through such pain only once. Pain comes again, but it finds a tougher surface. That is happiness, to be dissolved into something complete and great. When it comes to one, it comes as naturally as sleep. The fact that I was a girl never damaged my ambitions to be a pope or an emperor. Now I understood that the same road was to bring us together again. Whatever we had missed, we possess together the precious, the incommunicable past. Let your fiction grow out of the land beneath your feet. Men travel faster now, but I do not know if they go to better things. The old man smiled. I shall not die of a cold, my son. I shall die of having lived. Some memories are realities and are better than anything that can ever happen to one again. What was any art but a mold to imprison for a moment, the shining elusive element which is life itself, life hurrying past us and running away, too strong to stop, too sweet to lose. Success is never so interesting as struggle. The soul cannot be humbled by fasts and prayer, it must be broken by mortal sin to experience forgiveness of sin and rise to a state of grace. Otherwise, religion is nothing but dead logic. People can be lovers and enemies at the same time, you know. There was nothing but land, not a country at all, but the material out of which countries are made. That is happiness, to be dissolved into something complete and great. Artistic growth is, more than it is anything else, a refining of the sense of truthfulness. The stupid believe that to be truthful is easy. Only the artist, the great artist, knows how difficult it is. She had certain thoughts which were like companions, ideas which were like older and wiser friends. I wondered if the life that was right for one was ever right for two. No one can build his security upon the nobleness of another person. Only a woman, divine, could know all that a woman can suffer. There are only 2 or 3 human stories, and they go on repeating themselves as fiercely as if they had never happened before. The idea of you is a part of my mind, you influence my likes and dislikes, all my tastes, hundreds of times when I don't realize it. You really are a part of me. Paris is a hard place to leave, even when it rains incessantly, and one coughs continually, from the dampness. Only solitary men know the full joys of friendship. Others have their family, but to a solitary, and an exile his friends are everything. If there were no girls like them in the world, there would be no poetry. One cannot divine nor forecast the conditions that will make happiness, one only stumbles upon them by chance, in a lucky hour, at the world's end somewhere, and hold fast to the days. Winter lies too long in country towns, hangs on until it is stale and shabby, old and sullen. to fulfill the dreams of one's youth. That is the best that can happen to a man. No worldly success can take the place of that. Freedom so often means that one isn't needed anywhere. Prayers said by good people are always good prayers. Ah! The terror and the delight of that moment, when first we fear ourselves. Until then we have not lived. The dead might as well try to speak, to the living as the old to the young. The more observing ones may have seen, but discerning people are usually discreet and often kind, for we usually bleed a little before we begin to discern. There is often a good deal of the child left in people who have had to grow up too soon. Love itself draws on a woman nearly all the bad luck in the world. Some things are best learned in calm, others in storm. I prefer to be foolish when I feel like it, and be accountable to nobody. I do not see you as you really are, Joseph. I see you through my affection for you, and that's what makes men happy, believing in the mystery and importance of their own individual lives.
There was a new kind of strength in the gravity of her face, and her colors still gave her that look of deep-seated health and ardor. Trees were so rare in that country, and they had to make such a hard fight to grow, that we used to feel anxious about them, and visit them as if they were persons. The history of every country begins in the heart of a man or a woman. Pittsburgh was even more vital, more creative, more hungry for culture than New York. Pittsburgh was the birthplace of my writing. It's awfully easy to rush into a profession you don't really like, and awfully hard to get out of it. If we never arrived anywhere, it did not matter. Between that earth and that sky I felt erased, blotted out. I did not say my prayers that night. Here, I felt what would be would be. Language was like clothes. It could be a help to one, or it could give one away. But the most important thing was that one should not pretend to be what one was not. People have to snatch at happiness when they can, in this world. It is always easier to lose than to find. Things away from home often look better than they are. When people ask me if it has been a hard or easy road, I always answer with the same quotation: the end is nothing, the road is all. Old people, who have felt blows and toil, and known the world's hard hand, need, even more than children do, a woman's tenderness. "I only want impossible things," she said roughly. "The others don't interest me." Life was so short that it meant nothing at all, unless it were continually reinforced by something that endured, unless the shadows of individual existence came and went against a background that held together. The two friends stood for a few moments on the windy street corner, not speaking a word, as two travelers, who have lost their way, sometimes stand and admit their perplexity in silence. A man long accustomed to admire his wife in general, seldom pauses to admire her in a particular gown or attitude, unless his attention is directed to her by the appreciative gaze of another man.
Virtue is not left to stand alone. He who practices it will to see what is right and not to do. The object of the superior man is truth.
So short that it meant nothing at all, unless— oh, that's the beauty of the rose, that it blossoms and dies.
If we don't know life, how can we know death?
To his poetic gift, he squandered too much in the heat of personal communication.
The expectations of life depend upon diligence. The mechanic that would perfect his work must first sharpen his tool. Better a diamond with a flaw than a pebble without.
Me. I expect that is the only way one person ever really can help another. Our tree became the talking tree of the fairy tale. Legends and stories nestled like birds in its branches. The end is nothing. The road is all.
Roads were made for journeys, not destinations.
Forward-looking smile, enough to turn the future into summer.
No matter how busy you think you are, you must find time for reading, or surrender yourself to self-chosen ignorance. Wheresoever you go, go with all your heart. The expectations of
it was to him a very strange and perplexing place, where people wore fine clothes, and had hard hearts.
There are 3 methods to gaining wisdom. The first is a reflection, which is the highest. The second is a limitation, which is the easiest. The third is experience. What you do not want done to yourself, do not do to others. Made for journeys, not destinations.
Forward-looking smile, enough to turn the future into summer.
No matter how big.
But I can't help feeling scared when I think how I will miss you, more than you will ever know. She began to wonder whether she would not do better to finish her life alone. What was left of life seemed unimportant. Schools are not meant to make boys happy, see Chile, but to teach them to do without happiness. You must not begin to fret about the successes of cheap people. After all, what have they to do with you? I had killed a big snake. I was now a big fellow. The glorious transmutation of autumn had come on. All the vast Canadian shores were clothed with a splendor never seen in France, to which all the pageants of all the kings were as a taper to the sun. One is best in one's own country. Doctrine is well enough for the wise, Jean, but the miracle is something we can hold in our hands and love. He was entirely rid of his nervous misgivings, of his forced aggressiveness, of the imperative desire to show himself different from his surroundings. He felt now that his surroundings explained him. How easy it would be to dream one's life out in some cleft in the world. Her husband had archaic ideas about jewels. A man bought them for his wife, in acknowledgement of things he could not gracefully utter. The qualities of a second-rate writer can easily be defined, but the first-rate writer can only be experience. It is just the thing in him, which escapes analysis, that makes him first-rate. "Oh, he's an old friend from the West," said Eden easily. "I won't introduce you, because he doesn't like people. He's a recluse. Goodbye." The spark in his eye, which is one's very self, caught the spark in hers that was herself, and for a moment they looked into each other's natures. We agreed that no one, who had not grown up in a little prairie town, could know anything about it. It was a kind of Freemasonry, we said. Her secret? It is every artist's secret passion. That is all. It is an open secret, and perfectly safe. Like heroism, it is inimitable in cheap materials. It was no wonder that her son stood tall and straight. She was a rich mine of life, like the foundation of early races. And I advise ye to think well, he told her. It's better to be a stray dog in this world than a man without money. I've tried it both ways, and I know. A poor man stinks, and God hates him. You never really knew a man, he said, until you saw him die. There is no God but one God, and art is his revealer. That's my creed, and I'll follow it to the end, to a hotter place than Pittsburgh if need be. Avarice, he assured them, was the one passion that grew stronger and sweeter in old age. It must have been the scarcity of detail, in that tawny landscape, that made detail so precious. Don't love it so well, Clark, or it may be taken from you. Oh, dear boy, pray that whatever your sacrifice may be, it be not that. Have the last word, ma'am, he said cheerfully. It's a lady's privilege.
To see the right and not to do it is cowardice. Virtuous people often revenge themselves for the constraints to which they submit by the boredom which they inspire. He who acts with a constant view to his own advantage will be much murmured against. The superior man is distressed by the limitations of his ability. He is not distressed by the fact that men do not recognize the ability that he has. I slept and dreamt life is beauty. I woke and found life is duty. To be wronged is nothing, unless you continue to remember it. If you are the smartest person in the room, then you are in the wrong room. Act with kindness, but do not expect gratitude. Worry not that no one knows you. Seek to be worth knowing. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Think of tomorrow. The past can't be mended. Respect yourself, and others will respect you. When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps. Imagination is more important than knowledge. By nature, men are nearly alike. By practice, they get to be wide apart. The essence of knowledge is having it, to use it. Fine words and an insinuating appearance are seldom associated with true virtue. One joy dispels 100 cares. Anyone can find the switch after the lights are on. Study the past, if you would define the future. Never contract friendship with a man that is not better than thyself. Our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Learning without thought is labor lost. Thought without learning is perilous. He who knows all the answers has not been asked all the questions. Those who cannot forgive others break the bridge over which they themselves must pass. Those who know the truth are not equal to those who love it. The superior man thinks always of virtue. The common man thinks of comfort. Learn as if you were not reaching your goal, and as though you were scared of missing it. We have 2 lives. And the second begins when we realize we only have one. An oppressive government is more to be feared than a tiger. Do not impose on others what you yourself do not desire. Only the wisest and stupidest of men never change. The superior man acts before he speaks. and afterwards speaks according to his action. The man who says he can, and the man who says he cannot, are both correct. Your life is what your thoughts make it. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. The man who asks a question is a fool for a minute. The man who does not ask is a fool for life. When you see a good person, think of becoming like her/him. When you see someone not so good, reflect on your own weak points. All people are the same, only their habits differ. Learn avidly. Question it repeatedly. Analyze it carefully. Then put what you have learned into practice intelligently. Success depends upon previous preparation, and without such preparation there is sure to be failure. The superior man does not, even for the space of a single meal, act contrary to virtue. In moments of haste, he cleaves to it. In seasons of danger, he cleaves to it. The will to win, the desire to succeed, the urge to reach your full potential. These are the keys that will unlock the door to personal excellence. Go before the people with your example, and be laborious in their affairs. The journey with 1,000 miles begins with one step. Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. You are what you think. Looking at small advantages prevents great affairs from being accomplished. The superior man makes the difficulty to be overcome his first interest. Success only comes later. If you make a mistake and do not correct it, this is called a mistake. Education breeds confidence. Confidence breeds hope. Hope breeds peace. To go beyond is as wrong as to fall short. When we see persons of worth, we should think of equaling them. When we see persons of a contrary character, we should turn inwards and examine ourselves. A superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. They must often change who would remain constant in happiness and wisdom. Be strict with yourself, but least reproachful of others, and complaint is kept afar. When anger rises, think of the consequences. If you think in terms of a year, plant a seed. If in terms of 10 years, plant trees. And if in terms of 100 years, teach the people. If you look into your own heart, and you find nothing wrong there, what is there to worry about? What is there to fear? It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. Virtue is not left to stand alone. He who practices it will have neighbors. To see what is right and not to do it, is one of courage, or of principle. The object of the superior man is truth.
Oh, that's the beauty of the rose, that it blossoms and...
If we don't know life, how can we know death? The expectations of life depend upon diligence. The mechanic that would perfect his work must first sharpen his tools. Better a diamond with a flaw than a pebble without. To know what you know, and what you do not know, that is true knowledge.
The end is nothing, the road is all.
the center of your being. Roads were made for journeys, not destinations. No matter how busy you think you are, you must find time for reading, or surrender yourself to self-chosen ignorance. Wheresoever you go, go with all your heart. He who speaks without modesty will find it difficult to make his words good. There are 3 methods to gaining wisdom. The first is a reflection, which is the highest. The second is a limitation, which is the easiest. The third is experience, which is the bitterest. What you do not want done to yourself, do not do to others.